Wow, here we are again. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. As we've been studying today, we've caught ourselves up in a little bit of a tither here, trying to figure out just exactly how to put the words on here today. We're going to be talking about Jesus Christ, the Son of God, come down to speak to mankind in person for a period of a time of 33 years. And in those 33 years, as far as we know, he didn't go to college. As far as we know, he didn't get a degree from anybody but his Father God. And here he minces words in the Bible that are just exhaustible. And we're going to read in Matthew chapter 5, and we're going to start in verse 17, and we're going to think about something. He said, "Think that I am not come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." Now, those last three words, "but to fulfill," that is something that only Jesus could do. He fulfilled the law. He ended the Old Testament laws that were given, even the laws that Moses brought down. He fulfilled all of those laws, every one of them, the 10 Commandments. He fulfilled all of them in the flesh. Nobody else can do that. Only Jesus could ever have done that. There's no other man that walked on this earth that has not broken those commandments. "For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot nor one tittle shall no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled." So he's saying the law is there until all be fulfilled. Now, wherefore, he said, "Wheresoever, therefore, shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven." Now, what did he just say? He said if you're teaching opposite from what this Bible says, that you will be called the least in heaven. So there is a possibility for you to teach wrongly and still be saved. So you need to get in the book. You need to find out what the book says and of heaven. "But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." Now, both times he said that you're going to be in the kingdom of heaven. So you need to be careful how you preach and what you say, and make sure it's out of this book. And that's why I like to use the King James Version, because it's this book that has the truth in it. "For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven." Now what he just said, you've got to be saved. You've got to ask Jesus into your heart, which makes you above the scribes and Pharisees in the first place. You do not have to be intelligent. You don't even have to be able to read and write. But you need to have Jesus in your heart. And that takes you above the scribes and Pharisees already. Because the scribes and Pharisees are living by the works. They're living by works. "Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment, and whosoever shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be in danger of the council, but whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. He's saying, be careful now. When you get saved, that you don't all of a sudden become a judge of those that are lost where you just came from. You just walked out of a place and you turn around and look back and say, man, look at all these heathens. Well, you were just one of them just a few minutes ago, and now you're out. So therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there remember that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come offer thy gift. Agree with thine adversary quickly, while thou art in the way with him, lest at any time thine adversary deliver thee up to the judge, and the judge deliver thee up to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Now, Jesus is saying, when you get saved, you need to start walking spiritually and carefully. Do you know that Jesus was the greatest teacher that ever touched this world? He was the greatest teacher that ever touched this world. He never had a college degree. How about that? He never went to college. Yet God gave him as his son, so that he never taught in any universities. He never had an auditorium. Listen to this. He never had an auditorium to speak in, and he never had a loudspeaker. But he was smart enough, because he was the creator of everything, to know where to stand, to be able to put his voice across the crowd. He stood at the base of a mountainside where his voice would carry up. He stood at the edge of the water on a boat where the water was his loudspeaker. As he spoke, his words went out to crowds that were thousands, and they all heard. And they all heard plainly what he said. Never had a radio or television program. He taught on the mountainside, by the sea. Yet his teaching have outlived the ages. He was the greatest speaker, the greatest orator, and the greatest God on the earth that has ever been on the earth to come and teach us what we need to know. Yet his teaching have outlived the ages. He has influenced more men and changed the world more than any teacher who lived. Someone once said, and this I'm reading out of a book from the University of Hopkins, on one end of a log and a boy on the other end, but the greatest university ever known has Jesus as its teacher and the world as its pupils. That's the world we need to go to. That's the teacher we need to go to. We need to go to teacher Jesus. And the opposite end of that is the world. And he is one man born on this earth that has overcome the world. He's overcome all of the universities. He's overcome all of the every radio speaker, every announcer, everybody who has entered this world. He has overcome. And we're studying another part of his sermon today on the Mount. Jesus said that he did not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill. Evidently, some people of this day and some people of his day thought that he had come to set aside the laws of Jerusalem and to give them an easier religion. That's not true. He said, in effect, if that's what you are thinking, you are wrong. I come not to destroy the law, but to fulfill the meaning of it. So let's go into a room early in the morning when all the drapes are closed and all the sun is shining outside, and you receive just enough light around the edge of the draperies to see your way around the room. Then you pull all the draperies open, and the room is flooded with sunlight, and you see clearly. This is what happens when Jesus comes into your heart. The law of the Old Testament were dim and hazy, but when Jesus, and He made the light to shine upon them so that men could clearly understand them. It took Jesus. Without Him, you can't do anything. The Lord allowed me to win a young man to the Lord this week. A guy about 14 years old, perhaps. I asked his daddy, I said, "Sir, if you died right now, would you go to heaven?" And he said, "I sure would. I've been saved." And I said to the boy, "What about you, son?" He had no answer. And then he mumbled around a little bit, and he had no answer. And I said, "Would you like to be saved? Would you like to go to heaven when you die?" And he said, "Yes, I would." Well, I said, "Let's say this prayer together." And I said to him, "Let's say, Dear God." He said, "Dear God, I realize I'm a sinner." I had already asked him that, and he said, yes, he did. He realized he was a sinner. "I want you to forgive me of my sin." He said, "I want you to forgive me of my sin. Come into my heart and save my soul. Come into my heart and save my soul." Amen. You say, "Brother Peter, is that all there is to it?" That's the beginning. That's the light switch. When you turn that switch on, now you have a reference with God. Now God can speak to you. Now God can show you things. From that day on, from that minute on, things will be different in that boy's life. He will see that he can't continue in some of the things that he had been doing and follow the Lord. And the Lord will show him those things. That's a learning process. A baby has to crawl before he can walk. A Christian has to see his wrong before he can change it. And ask God to help him do that. And that's the way we need to do. Jesus then said, "As long as heaven and earth stand, not one jot and one tittle from this law shall pass away." Not a jot and not a tittle. A part of Hebrew letters. Let our crossing of a T to the dotting of an I. So we cross a T and we dot an I. That's a jot and a tittle. Instead of telling them that from now on they would not have to keep certain parts of God's law, He was telling them that even the most minute part must be forever observed. These words were for believers. And so He said that if they keep the law and taught it to others, they would be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But if they broke the commandments and taught others to do so, they would be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. It's the glory of the Sunday school teacher and the preacher is right to keep God's commandments and live in His way and teach others to do the same, and you will have your reward. Ladies and gentlemen, if we have asked Jesus Christ into our heart, if we are a worker in a church, we need to walk straight and keep clean. You say, how do you start that, Peter? What would be one of the first things you would do? One of the first things I had to do when I got saved was I walked away from the alcohol bottle. I didn't walk away, Jesus took it away. He took the cursing away from my lips. He took the cigarettes away from my mouth. He took the things that I did that would be offensive to Him away from me, so that I could be a worker for Him. And you've got to be willing to clean up, fess up, and when you sin, confess it. Say, God, forgive me. I failed right here. Forgive me. And get back right with the Lord all day long. You say, when do you do that, Brother Peter? You do it all day long. Especially the first year or so you're saved, you do it all day long. You're always doing something that God is revealing to you. Hey, that's not Christian. Don't do that. And we're in this flesh. And the devil will take this flesh. And he will make your eyes wander. He will make your brain wander. He will give you thoughts that are not godly. And you have to realize and recognize those and take care of that. And ask God to forgive you and get it out of the way. Well, our time has come and gone, and we will see you next time. Right. Bye-bye.